This is Shar Reza, and I'm a 7th grade social studies teacher at Summit Lakes Middle School. For my personal learning network recap video, I chose to organize it not just based on what I got out of my PLNs this summer, but as tips for people who are maybe just getting started using all these different tools that we covered in class and kind of seeing what's going to be helpful for people that I work with, for example. So my PLN has evolved a lot. About 2 or 3 years ago I got started, and in the beginning I was just following people and getting ideas, and then over time I started to share out ideas, maybe things that I got at a conference or what I was doing in my classroom. But just recently I started to really collaborate with other people. It's been cool to make connections with others outside the state in this country, and also taking that collaboration of sharing to a whole new level by truly connecting with other educators across the globe. And so there's a few teachers that just recently found my website and which took them to Twitter, and that was really cool because we've been sharing resources and collaborating on some of the things that I've posted, and it's been a really awesome thing to see. And then I was lucky enough to attend ISTE, the technology conference, this past week. And I heard a lot of people shifting from the term network actually to tribe or family. And so I included an image from Sylvia Duckworth. She's an awesome sketchnoter in education, and you should follow her. And she kind of does a good job of recapping the aspect of the tribe, and the fact that we're not just there to share ideas, but also to help each other re-energize, feel appreciated for the work that we do, especially with how exhausting education can be. Now, I love Twitter, and I know I was terrified of it the first few times. In fact, I joined and I didn't use it for 2 years after that, like a lot of people said, but I really see it as the ultimate form of global collaboration. Now, here is my chart for analytics for this month and how I've grown over the course of this class. And the gray area below is where I was at last year. And the blue is where I'm at this year. So I'm really stoked to see that increase in impressions, which is how many people have been to my site or engaged with my my tweets themselves. And I really look forward to seeing that number grow next year. I think that'll be awesome. When I tell people about Twitter, I like to give 2 pieces of advice. So first of all, don't be scared. Anytime we use something new, we tend to be really hard on ourselves, and it's easy to forget that you're not alone, but really, you're not alone. Global collaboration, you're not alone. And then also challenge yourself, because the only way you're going to grow is by feeling uncomfortable and putting yourself out there. And so learn by sharing your resources, your thoughts, your ideas, your questions. Don't just get stuck in the process of following, favoriting, and retweeting. Your ideas are worth something as well. I use TweetDeck on my computer to help me organize the chaos, and I find it really helpful, especially at conferences, because you can kind of sort through the best hashtags. But I also like to keep a couple on there that I use throughout the year based on what my goals are as an educator that year. It's nice because, for example, I followed a hashtag for a while called Classroom Cribs, which was all about the aesthetics of classroom and making it a flexible and personal place for kids. But I didn't necessarily know who to follow. So if I followed the hashtag on TweetDeck, then I could easily follow the people that had the best information resources and were most active. And then I use Hootsuite on my phone, on my mobile device. I also use it to help prioritize. So what am I doing at that moment in time? And then also, like I said, just to participate more. I still really love using Twitter, and I don't use TweetDeck 100% of the time, but I do think that it's really useful. So don't forget, be patient with yourself, and don't get locked into those columns. Delete those columns, move those columns around. Change is good. Twitter chats. I've been following chats for a long time, but I was really excited this year to kind of push myself to start participating. And I've already actually added in some reminders on my phone for next year. An image on the left is the new participate.com. They've got a lot of awesome new features that Jill tweeted out about, so I'm looking forward to checking out those resources. If I was going to give advice to people, the best thing is to follow the people in the chat. Sometimes we're so stuck on participating that we forget to follow the people that have good information. Especially, I participated in a chat that had just a ton of people participating, and so I found that it helped me to look at 3 or 4 people that had a lot of really similar, maybe philosophies on education or had good resources and thoughts that I could follow. Also, I tell people it's totally okay to observe the first few times, especially as you're getting used to something new and it's so fast paced that it might be nice just to follow along and maybe not chime in the first couple of times, and that's okay. And then once you're comfortable or once you're starting to feel like you want to put yourself out there, don't forget that your knowledge is valuable. As educators, we have a special knack for self-degradation and putting ourselves down. So stop saying, well, like I'm not really like the best at technology, or I don't have anything that people haven't heard of before. I have no new ideas. No, you're wrong. Your insights are important. Your knowledge is important, and it actually might just be the thing that bridges a connection with a collaborative relationship with somebody across the world that might be super awesome in building your PLN. So put yourself out there and learn something new. Now, if you're intimidated by Twitter and ed chats, then I think blogs are an awesome place to start when people begin their PLN, because they offer you a chance to do a lot more exploration, a lot deeper of exploration. And then also, like, I prefer really broad blogs because as a socialist teacher, everybody around the world teaches different topics at different times, and so for me it's nice to go at broad topics, but you might want to be specific, especially elementary school teachers or elective teachers. I think that specific blogs are really beneficial, or if you have a specific professional goal of yours. For me, I still really prefer social media, so I like Feedly and Twitter, and I follow the people that have interesting blogs to remind myself to check those blogs and stay connected without like checking the websites frequently. Because a lot of times those blogs can have a lot more in-depth resources, which can be really beneficial. For webinars, they're a lot like an online workshop, or that has like a Twitter chat that's kind of attached to it. Again, I keep an eye on Twitter and blogs for the best webinars. But I also found that when I was searching around for this class, I didn't even think about it this way, but you can kind of treat it like YouTube. If you're looking to use a new tool that you've not used in your classroom, webinars are a great place. Or like I was attending that ISTE conference, and it's really intimidating for first year attendees. And so I went online, found a cool webinar that gave lots of tips, helped me feel a lot more prepared. I actually found the guy that led the webinar when I went to ISTE to kind of compliment him on it and tell him I was following along, and he was super stoked to meet somebody that participated face to face and was like, I have so many awesome ideas for next year. I'm already making a list, and I thought that was really cool. Also, the archives are really good. I mean, we're all so busy that you can be really hard on yourself if you can't participate in webinars, but the archives are really nice, especially for searching. And then again, don't forget to connect to the people that maybe are leading the webinars if you like them a lot, or if maybe somebody's participating in the chat that is really awesome, somebody that you can follow to keep that PLN growing and active. This was the tool I was least familiar with, but kind of how I like to think of it as like an interactive blog or a slow-moving Twitter chat. I really take to Google Plus a lot more because I'm on Google a lot more, and I don't really like the aesthetics of the Schoology feed where if I follow a group and it's a really active group, I don't like that it can completely take over my feed. So that kind of bothers me right now as I'm getting used to it, but again, that's just while I'm getting used to it. So a Schoology group, I found those to be awesome to places to post questions. Seems like you can get feedback a lot faster than on Twitter, since things can get lost in Twitter sometimes. And again, also just connect to similarly minded educators. They also are a lot more like a community than a network sometimes, because I found that a lot of the communities, depending on their size or topic, maybe had people that were, daily participants or weekly participants, which means that you're going to build that connection more specifically with other educators. A couple of people brought this up in our discussion groups, but I think it's important to not forget that you should purge. That just because you follow a couple of things one time doesn't mean you have to keep following them if you don't like them, or maybe they've stopped being as active as well. And then also I found that sometimes I was struggling to find things that were my niche, and so maybe making your own group, your own community on Google Plus, and maybe there's other people out there, probably other people out there that have that exact same question or interest in a topic, and just being brave to start that versus just following, although it's very easy to follow on social media. So kind of in closing, when I think about where my PLN will grow from here, I think it's all about pushing myself to be the best educator and collaborator that I can be. And so I found this image, again, Sylvia Duckworth, I found this image to be really awesome at capturing the idea that our learning and growth is individual, just like it is for our students. So it's important not to compare ourselves to others, which is why I really also love the title of this class. It's not about becoming the next Alice Keeler on Twitter. It's about being the best you and using PLNs to help you grow to be the best for your students. So I thought this image was really awesome just to focus on that growth, although that plant is growing very quickly. So my final thoughts, so if I was going to talk to a coworker about personal learning networks, I thought I would kind of put it into a little bit of like a bullet point list. So first, and these are tips for myself, reminders for myself as well as for others, be patient with yourself. Allow yourself to do what's best for you depending on your schedule and what you need at that time and where you're at in life. If you need energy, if you need rest, to take it for yourself. Try something new. Always try new things. What's the worst that could happen? I mean, failure is growth. So try a new tool, push yourself, and take the next step in shaping your PLN. Oh, so important. It's quality, not quantity. It's not about following 1,000 people on Twitter or having 50 blogs in your Feedly or participating in chats weekly or webinars or whatever, but it's about finding the good stuff. So don't overwhelm yourself. Focus on that quality aspect. And then I've said this a few times, but the best learning comes from disequilibrium. You have to be okay with not being perfect or having all the answers. And sometimes we as educators can be like the complete worst students because we don't want to feel uncomfortable and we don't want to fail. We're used to having all the answers, but that's really the only way that we can grow as educators. And so it's okay to feel uncomfortable when you're working with a new tool. And again, share, exclamation point, put your knowledge, thoughts, resources out there for everyone. By putting ourselves out there, a PLN is a great place to go. We think of it as like, oh, well, like I don't have any new ideas, but sometimes just getting one favorite on like a tweet that you send out can be all the kudos that you need for work. I mean, we're, again, teachers, we work for very little kudos. So getting that appreciation and acknowledgement of your work can be really nice. And then lastly, after my experience at ISTE this week, I can say that making connections is probably the best part of a PLN, especially as I started to meet some of the people that I've been following for so many years. It was really beyond cool. Seeing how this globalized learning, learning is like this, the best way to connect with students in the world that they're living in right now. And if we want to teach our students to be 21st century learners, then we need to be one too. And all of these different tools in some way, shape, or form, however you put your puzzle together of all these different tools is going to help you be a better 21st century learner. So those are my final thoughts. Thanks, Jill, for all your work and encouragement and just everything for this class. You're awesome. Hope everyone has a great summer.